Emma had always had a soft heart when it came to animals. Growing up in a small town with her parents, she had been the one to feed strays, nurse injured birds, and bring home temporary guests that almost always became permanent. But now, living on her own in a quiet suburban neighborhood, she hadn't expected her next rescue to come during a quick grocery trip on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The parking lot was mostly empty when she stepped out of the store with her shopping bags. As she passed the back alley near the dumpster, a faint sound stopped her. It was a barely there mewling, weak and strained. At first, she thought she imagined it, but then she heard it again. Following the sound, Emma crouched beside a pile of cardboard boxes and spotted a small, trembling ball of fur. A kitten, no more than a few weeks old. Its fur was wet and matted with dirt. It didn't try to run, just stared up at her with wide, glassy eyes that looked more confused than afraid. Emma's heart clenched. She carefully removed her scarf and gently picked up the kitten, wrapping it like a newborn. The tiny creature didn't resist. It was ice cold and barely breathing steadily. "Where's your mom, little one?" Emma murmured, glancing around. There was no sign of any other animal. No food scraps, no bedding, just trash and concrete. Someone had most likely abandoned the kitten here. She didn't hesitate. Emma placed her bags in the back seat and cradled the kitten in her lap as she drove home. Her heater was on full blast, but the kitten remained curled into itself, tiny and silent. Emma kept her eyes on the road, but couldn't ignore the knot of concern forming in her chest. As much as she wanted to help, she couldn't stop thinking about Max. Max was her 5-year-old German shepherd, intelligent, loyal, and strong. He had been her companion ever since she adopted him from a local rescue shelter as a pup. They had formed an unbreakable bond. Max was protective, especially of Emma. He was good with people, loved going on hikes, and followed commands like a trained professional. But he had never been around something this small. Emma had seen the way he reacted to squirrels in the backyard, alert, ready to chase, sometimes barking with wild excitement. Would he see the kitten as prey? Would his instincts take over? The thought made her chest tighten. When she pulled into the driveway, rain started to fall gently. She carried the kitten inside with utmost care. Max greeted her at the door, tail wagging and tongue hanging out. His nose twitched instantly, picking up the unfamiliar scent. Emma walked past him slowly, whispering, "Not now, Max," and headed straight to the kitchen. She found a shoebox and lined it with a warm towel from the dryer. She placed the kitten inside and gently dabbed it with a dry cloth. It barely moved but seemed to relax under the warmth. She filled a shallow dish with milk and placed it near the kitten's head. It sniffed and, to her relief, began to drink. Slowly, Max had followed her into the kitchen, but kept his distance. His ears were forward, eyes locked on the shoebox, posture alert. Emma turned to him with a mix of caution and firmness in her voice. "Stay, Max." He sat obediently, but whined softly. Emma could see the curiosity burning inside him. "Okay," she said after a moment, but gentle. Max stepped forward. Slowly, inch by inch, he lowered his large head toward the box. Emma tensed, ready to intervene. But then, the most surprising thing happened. Max sniffed the kitten, then let out a soft, whimpering sound. He lowered his body to the ground and lay down beside the box, resting his head next to the kitten without making another move. His tail gave one small thump against the floor. The kitten, still weak, lifted its head slightly and looked at him. No hissing, no fear, just a quiet stare. Then, to Emma's amazement, it stretched one tiny paw toward Max's nose and rested it there. Emma covered her mouth with her hand. All the worry, all the fear, gone in that one moment. The dog everyone thought might be dangerous had just offered the gentlest greeting, and for the first time since she'd found the kitten, Emma felt hopeful. This was only the beginning. The morning after the kitten's rescue started earlier than usual. Emma had barely opened her eyes when she heard Max pacing near the foot of the bed. It wasn't unusual for him to wake up early, but today his steps seemed more urgent, almost impatient. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. "What is it, Max?" He didn't bark. He just looked at her, tail swaying, ears alert, and then turned his head toward the hallway. "Oh, right," she whispered. She climbed out of bed and followed Max into the kitchen, where the shoebox sat on a low table near the window. The kitten was still curled up inside, but this time its tiny head peeked out from under the towel. Its fur had fluffed up slightly from drying overnight, and for the first time, Emma noticed faint orange stripes on its legs and tail. Max approached the box carefully, moving slower than usual, almost like he understood the delicacy of the moment. He nudged the edge of the towel with his nose and let out a soft grunt. The kitten blinked sleepily and let out a quiet mew. Emma stood back and watched. She couldn't help but smile. There was something in Max's eyes, a kind of quiet affection she hadn't seen before. It wasn't just curiosity now. It was concern. She poured herself some coffee and walked to the back door. Max followed her halfway before turning to check on the kitten again. Emma chuckled. "You're smitten, aren't you?" She decided to let them interact a little more directly. She gently lifted the kitten from the box and placed it on a folded blanket on the floor. Max immediately laid down beside it, nose just inches away. The kitten wobbled on its tiny legs, stumbled forward, and collapsed right against Max's chest. Instead of flinching or backing away, Max lowered his head, rested it on the floor, and stayed perfectly still. Emma took out her phone. She had to capture this. She clicked a few photos, then pressed record as the kitten started to purr, a soft, low hum that filled the quiet room. Max closed his eyes. It was as if they had both decided, without words, that this was where they belonged. By mid-morning, Emma had posted one of the photos to a local animal lovers group online. She captioned it, "I thought my big dog would hate the kitten I brought home last night, but I think he's already adopted her." She didn't expect much from the post, but within an hour, it started gaining attention. Dozens of comments poured in, people gushing over the unlikely pair, others sharing similar stories, and many asking for updates. One comment stood out: "Big dogs can have the biggest hearts. Don't judge by size, judge by soul." Emma kept glancing over at Max and the kitten, still curled together in a sunbeam by the kitchen window. The quote felt more true than ever. As the day went on, she introduced the kitten to a proper carrier, gave it a gentle bath, and even managed to schedule a vet visit for the next morning. Through it all, Max followed quietly, keeping a watchful eye. He didn't bark once. If anything, he seemed to understand that his role was changing, from protector of the home to protector of someone far smaller than himself. That evening, while Emma was preparing dinner, she heard a soft tumble in the living room. She rushed over, half expecting the kitten to have gotten stuck somewhere. But what she saw made her laugh. The kitten had climbed on top of Max's back and was batting at his ears playfully. Max lay there like a statue, letting the tiny paws bounce off his thick fur. Occasionally, he'd flick his ear or glance at Emma as if to say, "She's wild, but I'll allow it." Emma couldn't believe how easily the two had connected. It was only their first full day together, yet they acted like old companions. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma sat on the couch, Kitten nestled in one hand and Max resting his head on her knee. She looked at both of them and felt something, rare peace, a kind of joy that comes only when something completely unexpected turns out to be exactly what you needed. Whatever the future held, one thing was clear: this wasn't just a temporary rescue. It was the start of something extraordinary. By the third day, the rhythm in Emma's house had quietly shifted. What once had been the peaceful routine of a woman and her loyal dog had turned into something livelier, more delicate, more vibrant. The kitten, now affectionately named Luna for her pale gray and orange fur, had already begun making herself at home. Luna was still small, barely strong enough to climb onto the couch without help, but her energy was undeniable. She was curious about everything: the sound of the refrigerator, the clink of Emma's spoon against a cup, the feel of the carpet beneath her paws. Every few minutes, she seemed to discover something new and respond with a tiny meow of delight or confusion. And Max had changed too. The once independent, confident German Shepherd had taken on a new role, one Emma never expected to see. He wasn't just tolerating Luna, he was watching over her. He followed her with quiet devotion, never too close to overwhelm her, but never too far to let her slip away. Emma noticed that Max adjusted his movements whenever Luna was around. His usual heavy trot became lighter. His playful twirls in the backyard were now gentler, slower. He no longer barked at squirrels through the window. Instead, he'd glance toward Luna first, as if checking if the noise might startle her. The dog who once ruled the house now seemed to revolve around a kitten who weighed less than his collar. One moment stood out more than the others. That afternoon, Emma had placed a soft fleece blanket in the corner of the living room, near the fireplace. Luna had curled up into a ball on it, falling into a nap after a short burst of exploring. Max wandered in a few minutes later. He looked at the sleeping kitten, then circled twice before lowering himself gently beside her, pressing his body, close enough for warmth but not so close as to disturb her sleep. Emma peeked from the hallway and froze at the sight. She didn't want to interrupt. The fire crackled softly beside them. Max blinked slowly, then rested his chin on his front paws. The room felt still, almost sacred. It was a moment of pure comfort. Later that evening, as Emma sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, she saw that her previous post about Max and Luna had now gathered over 3,000 likes. People from different countries were commenting, animal lovers, parents, even teachers, sharing the story with their students. Words like faith restored, tears in my eyes, and this is what the world needs more of, filled the comment section. Emma read each message with a growing sense of amazement. It had started as a small act of kindness, saving a helpless kitten from the cold, and now it had become something that touched hearts across the world. The next morning, Emma took Luna to the vet for her first official checkup. Max sat by the door as she left, ears drooping, clearly unhappy that Luna wasn't in sight. When they returned an hour later, Max let out a high-pitched whine and circled them twice, before finally relaxing. Luna had been cleared with a clean bill of health, slightly underweight but strong. The vet even chuckled when Emma mentioned Max's behavior. "Sounds like you've got yourself a new pair of siblings," he said. That evening, Emma set up a tiny play area for Luna in the living room with toy mice, a scratching post, and a feather wand. As Luna batted the toys with clumsy paws, Max watched intently, ears twitching with every pounce. Sometimes he'd get up and nudge a toy closer to her, earning a surprised meow from the kitten and a smile from Emma. The bond between them wasn't just adorable, it was genuine. It was the kind of connection that didn't need language, only trust. What amazed Emma most wasn't just Max's gentleness, it was how quickly he had embraced the change. He hadn't hesitated, he hadn't resisted. He had simply accepted Luna like she belonged, like she'd always been part of his pack. And deep down, Emma felt it too. Whatever this was, it was only just beginning. The following week brought more surprises, but none as touching as Max's growing protectiveness over Luna. It wasn't just affection anymore, it was guardianship. Emma had never seen Max behave this way before. He was no longer just a curious companion. He had taken on the role of a watchful older brother. It became most obvious the day the mail carrier rang the doorbell. Max had always barked at the doorbell. It was his way of letting Emma know someone was approaching. Usually, he would run to the door, stand tall, tail alert, ready to investigate. But this time, something changed. Emma was folding laundry in the bedroom when she heard the bell. Max started to bark, but instead of rushing straight to the door, he darted into the living room. He paused by the couch, where Luna was sleeping, and stood between her and the front of the house. His ears were perked, his chest lifted, but his attention remained fixed on Luna. Emma watched in amazement. Max wasn't just announcing a visitor, he was making sure the kitten was safe first. Moments like these became more frequent. If Luna cried out after getting her paw stuck between couch cushions, Max was there before Emma. If she tried to explore the fireplace, he'd gently nosed her away. And if a loud noise startled her, Max would position himself beside her, almost shielding her from whatever caused the sound. Emma could only marvel at the instinct. He wasn't trained to protect her. He just did it. The kitten, for her part, responded with growing confidence. She began to see Max as her safety net. If she wandered too far into unfamiliar corners of the house and got overwhelmed, she'd trot back to Max and curl up against his side. When she chased her tail too hard and tumbled sideways, it was Max's nose that helped her back up. There was one afternoon, cloudy and quiet, when Emma sat on the porch with her laptop. She had left the back door open, letting Max and Luna explore the fenced yard together. She kept checking every few minutes, expecting to find Luna stuck under a bush or halfway up a tree, but instead, every time she looked, Max was right there, following her closely, his shadow stretching alongside hers on the grass. He moved slowly, patiently, as if adjusting his stride to match her clumsy kitten legs. When she lay in the grass to swat at bugs, he sat beside her, scanning the fence like a silent bodyguard. Emma snapped a picture of the two and posted it with the caption, "One watches the house, the other watches butterflies. Together they've got it covered." Within hours, the post had over 10,000 likes. Messages poured in, people asking about Max and Luna, requesting more updates, even asking if they could send gifts. One message read, "I never liked dogs until now. Max has changed my mind." That night, as Emma read through the comments, Luna lay curled on top of Max's back, sound asleep. Max remained still, careful not to move, even as his leg twitched from a dream. It was like he knew he had something precious on his back, something worth protecting, even in sleep. Emma placed her hand on Max's head and scratched behind his ears. "You're something special," she whispered. "I hope you know that." Max blinked slowly but stayed still. The fire crackled softly in the corner. Outside, a breeze rustled the trees. Inside, a dog and a kitten rested like they'd known each other forever. It was only a week since Emma brought Luna home, yet their bond felt deep, unshakable. The fear that once loomed large, the fear of what Max might do, now seemed so distant, almost laughable. Instead of danger, there was devotion. Instead of rivalry, there was warmth. And in the heart of her home, Emma now had a gentle giant and a tiny explorer, perfectly mismatched and completely inseparable. The days grew warmer, and with the arrival of spring, Emma found herself spending more and more time outdoors with Max and Luna. What started as cautious backyard strolls quickly became lively adventures that neither animal wanted to miss. One Saturday morning, Emma unlocked the garden gate and stepped into the soft grass, Max trotting eagerly at her side. Luna followed, her tiny paws padding softly as she tried to keep up with the much larger dog. Emma smiled as she watched the two, a large German shepherd with his steady, confident pace, and a tiny kitten with wide eyes full of wonder, occasionally darting into the tall grass or chasing the shadows of fluttering butterflies. Max seemed to take his role as guardian seriously. Whenever Luna wandered too close to the flower beds or near the garden fence, he would gently intercept her with a nudge of his nose or a low, calming growl, more like a warning than a threat. Luna, for her part, was learning quickly. She stopped at Max's side, her tail flicking in anticipation, as if trusting his guidance. Emma felt a rush of happiness watching them explore. This wasn't just a dog and a kitten sharing space, it was a pair growing together, learning from each other, and forming a friendship few would have predicted. At one point, Luna spotted a butterfly resting on a bright yellow flower. She crouched low and pounced, or at least tried to, her paws missing the delicate insect by inches. Max watched with quiet amusement, his tongue lolling out in a happy pant. Suddenly, Luna let out a sharp meow and scrambled back as a small patch of mud splattered near her paws. She looked up at Max with wide eyes, unsure what to make of the unexpected dirt. Max lowered his head, sniffed the mud, and then looked back at Luna with a soft whine, as if to say, "It's okay, you're safe." Luna gave a tentative step forward, nudged the mud with a paw, and then carefully pressed her nose against Max's cheek in a silent thank you. Emma's heart swelled. Watching their interactions, it was clear that Max's protective instincts extended beyond keeping Luna safe. They were helping her build confidence. Over the next few days, Emma noticed Luna growing bolder. She climbed onto low chairs, chased sunbeams through the living room, and even tried to mimic Max's bark, a tiny high-pitched meow that Emma found endlessly amusing. Max, ever patient, seemed to encourage her playfulness. He'd roll onto his back, inviting Luna to bat at his paws. Sometimes, he'd carry small toys to her, dropping them gently at her feet. The pair had become inseparable. Wherever Max went, Luna followed. When Emma called Max to come inside, Luna was never far behind. At bedtime, Luna curled tightly against Max's warm side, and the dog seemed to relax even more deeply with her close. One afternoon, Emma decided to capture their growing friendship in a photo series. She set up her camera in the backyard and watched as Max and Luna played under the soft sunlight. She caught Luna climbing up Max's side, Max gently pawing at a ball with Luna batting at it, and the two lying side by side in the grass. Later, she posted the photos online with the caption, "Proof that friendship knows no size." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments praising the bond, and messages from people who said the story had brightened their day. Emma smiled as she read the messages. She hadn't expected their story to touch so many hearts, but perhaps that was the magic of genuine connection. It spoke to something universal. At night, Emma often found herself watching Max and Luna with a quiet sense of wonder. The dog who had once been feared to hurt the kitten was now her biggest protector and best friend, in their own way. Max and Luna were teaching Emma about trust, patience, and the power of unexpected friendships. And in a world that often seemed divided, their unlikely companionship was a reminder that kindness and love could bridge even the biggest differences. As spring blossomed into early summer, the quiet harmony between Max and Luna continued to grow. Emma often caught herself smiling at the sight of the large German shepherd and the tiny kitten exploring their home side by side, a pair so different, yet inseparable. But as with any journey, challenges were bound to arise. One afternoon, Emma noticed Luna hesitating at the bottom of the staircase. The narrow wooden steps, which Max had mastered months ago, seemed daunting to the little kitten. She paused uncertainly at the first step, then looked back toward the living room, her green eyes wide with hesitation. Emma crouched down beside her. "You can do it, Luna," she encouraged softly. Luna mewed, but still didn't move. Emma wondered if the fear was because the stairs felt slippery or too tall. After all, Luna was still young and fragile. Max, who had been lounging nearby, noticed the kitten's uncertainty. He rose slowly, stretched his massive frame, and padded over to the stairs. He sat at the bottom step, looking up and then back at Luna, as if silently saying, "I'll be right here." Emma smiled. She lifted Luna gently onto Max's back. The kitten blinked, surprised by the warmth and softness beneath her paws. Emma whispered, "Hold on tight." Max stood steady as a rock, as Emma helped Luna onto the first step. Slowly, step by step, Luna made her way up the staircase, Max following patiently behind, acting like a steadfast guardian. When they reached the top, Emma scooped Luna into her arms and praised her. The kitten purred loudly, pride shining in her eyes. For the next few days, Emma encouraged Luna to practice the stairs, always with Max nearby. The dog's presence gave Luna confidence, and soon she was darting up and down on her own, with Max watching protectively at the bottom. But the harmony was about to be tested. One afternoon, Emma noticed Max growling softly in the backyard. This was unusual. Max was calm by nature and rarely vocal unless something was wrong. Emma followed his gaze and saw a stray cat slinking along the fence line. The cat was bigger than Luna and looked tough. It had matted fur and a sharp glare. Max stood tall, hackles raised slightly, watching the stranger carefully. Luna crouched behind Max's legs, eyes wide but trusting. Emma stepped outside slowly. "Max, it's okay," she said calmly. But Max didn't relax. He took a few steps forward, standing between Luna and the stranger. The stray cat hissed and arched its back, making itself look bigger. Max growled again, low and steady. Emma realized the tension was rising. The stray cat was a potential threat to Luna, and Max was taking his role seriously. She whistled softly. "Max, come here." The dog hesitated, then obeyed. Sitting close to Emma's side, Emma turned to Luna and scooped her into her arms, retreating inside the house. Max followed closely behind, still alert but calm. That evening, Emma wondered if the peaceful life they'd built would be disrupted by outside dangers. She knew stray animals could sometimes bring trouble, but she had faith in Max's instincts and Luna's growing strength. She also realized that their story, one of unlikely friendship, wasn't just about sweetness and warmth. It was about courage, protection, and facing challenges together. As she watched Max curl up beside Luna that night, Emma felt a surge of hope. Whatever came next, they would face it side by side. Emma's days had become filled with the joyful chaos of caring for two very different but deeply connected animals. Max and Luna's bond had captured the hearts of everyone who met them, and Emma found herself constantly sharing updates with friends, family, and the online community that had grown around their story. One afternoon, Emma noticed a particularly playful interaction between Max and Luna. The kitten had discovered how to climb onto Max's broad back, and the dog tolerated it with an almost regal patience. Luna batted at Max's ears and whiskers while he lay calmly on the living room floor. Emma grabbed her phone and recorded the scene, the gentle giant patiently enduring the tiny kitten's antics. It was the perfect symbol of their unexpected friendship. She posted the video on social media with the caption, "When size doesn't matter, and friendship conquers all." Within hours, the video went viral. Thousands of people shared it, commenting on the tender moment and expressing surprise at the dog's gentle behavior toward the kitten. People who had never considered adopting pets were suddenly inspired by Max and Luna's story. The video sparked conversations about kindness, patience, and how animals can teach humans about love. News outlets even reached out to Emma, asking if they could feature Max and Luna in their stories. Local radio stations invited her to share the tale live, and online pet magazines wrote articles celebrating the duo. While the attention was overwhelming at times, Emma embraced it. She wanted to spread the message that sometimes the most unlikely friendships can teach us the most valuable lessons. But amidst the growing fame, Emma never lost sight of what truly mattered, the everyday moments with Max and Luna. She made sure to keep their routine steady, filled with playtime, naps, and gentle care. One afternoon, after a busy day of interviews and messages, Emma sat on the couch with Max and Luna nestled close. The kitten purred softly against Max's fur as the dog's steady breathing lulled the room into calm. Emma reflected on the journey so far, from the fearful anticipation when she first brought Luna home, to the surprising warmth Max had shown. It was a reminder that sometimes fear masks understanding and that love has a way of breaking down walls. Through their story, Emma hoped to inspire others to open their hearts to the unexpected, whether that be a stray kitten, a misunderstood dog, or even a new friendship in their own lives. As night fell, Emma looked at Max and Luna and whispered, "You two have changed more lives than you know." Max lifted his head and gave a soft woof, as if in agreement. Luna stretched and settled back down, her tiny paws kneading gently into Max's side. Emma smiled and turned off the lights, feeling grateful for the beautiful, unlikely family she had found. Months had passed since the day Emma first brought Luna home. Trembling and unsure, the tiny kitten, once fragile and scared, had blossomed into a confident and playful companion, all under the watchful eyes of Max, the gentle giant who had become more than just a dog. He was her protector, her friend, and her family. Emma often thought about how quickly their lives had changed. What had begun as a moment of fear, worried that Max might hurt Luna, had transformed into a story of unexpected love. The fear had faded, replaced by trust, kindness, and an unbreakable bond. One quiet evening, Emma sat by the fireplace, Max curled at her feet, and Luna nestled in her lap. She looked down at the kitten's bright eyes, now full of mischief and warmth. Max rested his large head on her knee, sighing softly. Emma smiled and spoke softly. "You've taught me more than you'll ever know." It wasn't just about animals, she realized. It was about people too. How often did fear or misunderstanding keep us from seeing the good in others? How often did we judge before we knew the whole story? Max and Luna had shown her the answer. Love wasn't about size, species, or appearances. It was about acceptance. Word of their story continued to spread, inspiring many. Emma received messages from people who had adopted animals after hearing about Max and Luna, and others who had reached out to reconcile differences in their own lives. Emma started volunteering at the local animal shelter, sharing their story and encouraging others to give animals a chance. She organized small events where dogs and cats could meet and socialize in safe, caring environments, hoping to create more stories like hers. One spring morning, as Emma opened the garden gate, she saw Max and Luna waiting by the fence, tails wagging and whiskers twitching. Together, they stepped into the sunshine, ready for a new day of adventures. Emma watched them, feeling her heart full. No longer was there fear or doubt, only hope. Because sometimes, the most unlikely friendships teach us the greatest lessons about compassion, courage, and the power of love. And in the quiet moments between a dog's gentle breath and a kitten's soft purr, the world felt a little brighter.